of all the people who've come to this exhibition, I'm assuming the people sitting here today are interested about their careers. So, for the next 30 minutes, all I'm going to do is try and help you manage your career more effectively. I passionately believe everyone can get job satisfaction and career success. And so I'm going to try and make the next 30 minutes the most important for you for 2014. You all right? I'm Michael Moran. I'm a career management expert. I spend all my time working with people, helping them better manage their careers. Okay? 1080, the business I represent, that's absolutely the heart of what we're doing. Sadly, in the UK, most of our employees are not engaged. In fact, we're bottom of the European league table for engagement. And I'm going to tell you why. It's because most organizations don't help employees manage their careers. In fact, most organizations impose upon people what the organization wants them to do, and then the organization shapes to it. For the next 30 minutes, I'm going to show you a very different way of doing it, which is take the time and effort to understand what's important to the employee, what their values, motivators, and skills are, and sculpt the job around them. All engagement surveys show us what employees want are managers who listen, care, and develop. If you do that, you'll have engaged employees. And I'm going to make the case, if you've got engaged employees, you'll have a profitable business. You'll have customer satisfaction. You'll have shareholder value. So two things I'm doing. One, I'm going to try and help you advance your career. And secondly, I'm going to try and give you some ideas how you can improve employee engagement. Have I got you for 30 minutes? So, just give me some audience feedback. How important is your career to you at the moment? Are we talking 10? Yeah? So I'm going to ask you I'm going to ask you 8 questions, because I want to see how well you manage your career. Yeah? If you get a right answer, score yourself 2 points. If it's a little bit of it, but not everything, score yourself 1 point. And if the answer is I don't do it, it's nil point. Okay? 8 questions. And indeed, I've had like 17 months garden leave in the last 7 years. Garden leave is HR's greatest invention, right? On my last garden leave, I built this. It's a game of snakes and ladders, which will tell you how you're managing your career. It's free, both on the App Store and Google Play. 1080 Careers Ladders, and if you get a right answer, you go up a ladder. Wrong answer, you go down a snake. We're going to play this game together, okay? So, do you have a written down career plan? If you do, give yourself 2 points. Back of a fag packet, it's a little bit of a plan, it's 1. If not, no points. See, and if you're scoring no points, you're like 97% of the UK population who work. Indeed, what I don't understand is, given that you're going to spend probably 40 to 50 years working 40 hours a week for 48 weeks in a year, and most people don't plan their careers. Don't plan it at all. Indeed, we spend more time planning a holiday. We'll go on to Expedia, we'll go to TripAdvisor for something that's for 2 weeks, and yet in 3 months' time it's a distant memory. I don't understand that. But the bottom line is, all the research shows you that if you don't plan your career, you will not get to the destination. Just think about it if you did your holiday. If you got on the first plane on the 28th of August and just went to where it is, and then you said, do you know what, Michael? I don't like it. It's too hot. It's too cold. So rule one, have a career plan. Secondly, in your current role, are you appreciating as an asset? As a balance sheet, are we appreciating? I have a rule. The first 18 months of any new job, you acquire information you appreciate. The next 18 months you pay back. You contribute. If you've been there 3 years and you're not doing anything new, you're not learning, get out. So, yes, for 2 points, a little bit 1 point, no, nothing. And by the way, ask yourself, if you've not learned anything new in the last 12 months, that's a really dangerous position to be in. Okay? Do you have a mentor inside and outside the organization? 2 points if you've got one in and one outside, 1 if you just got the one. Again, the research tells us that having a mentor is a prerequisite to career success. And just think about it. Do you honestly believe that Usain Bolt got as fast as he did running the 100 meters without the help of anybody else? Key to career success is sharing with people your career aspirations. The more people that know about your aspirations, the more likely they are to be achieved. More responsibility. Career success is determined about actively seeking out additional responsibility. Putting your hand up and saying, I want to do that. I'm curious about it. So again, has your job enlarged? So we're not going to knowledge, but the length of scope, has it increased? Again, if it has, it's 2 points. Little bit, 1 point. Nope, no points. You still with me on the scores? Okay. Are you working in a culturally diverse and part of a multidisciplinary team? 3 predictors of career success. 1, IQ. But by the way, the good news is you don't need too much of that. The second one is EQ, based on Daniel Goleman's work around emotional intelligence. It's not what you know, it's how you relate to people. But increasingly in today's society, LQ, learning agility. How many of you got a BlackBerry? BlackBerry? How many's got a smartphone? If you're working in BlackBerry today, it's a hard job, isn't it? What we know is the technology is overtaking it. Like if I said to you 20 years ago, you're going to be a telex operator, today you're unemployable. The issue of learning agility is the ability to respond to marketplaces when they change. And therefore, in terms of career advice, working in very different environments, for the audience here, if you've worked overseas, I will guarantee you, in terms of learning agility, you'll be better than people who just worked in the same environment. It is not a good strategy to work for the same organization for 40 years. Michael's rule of thumb: if you've worked for 15 years for one company, or you've worked for 15 years in the same sector for 3 different companies, there's 2 things I will guarantee you about that latter case. The first one is you're paid more. Anything between 25 and 30% higher as a result of moving around. And secondly, you're more employable. Why? Because you know how the competitors do it. Maybe it's not what they tell you at business school. Next. Now, I'm assuming most people understand that getting jobs today is all about having a powerful network. So again, how many people do you need in your network to advance your career? 2 points for 250, 1 point for between 100 and 250, no points for less than 100. And when I mean a network, I'm talking about people that you know to whom you've added value and they owe you a favor. If you're going to the job market to get yourself a new job, and you've got people out there who are looking out for you, who owe you a favor and can introduce you, it's a very easy task. For those of us in the HR&D community, we're good at working hard and keeping a head down and staying within the organization. It's the worst thing you can do in terms of career advancement. Okay. By personal brand, I mean what it is that people say about you when they leave the room, when you leave the room. If we're thinking about a project or another job, what are they saying about you as to why they think you should be given that role? When I do this a longer session, I show pictures of David and Victoria Beckham over the last 20 years. And how David Beckham has moved from sporting superstar to ambassador for UK. Victoria Beckham has gone from posh spice to fashion icon, working mother. Now, by the way, those images, they haven't just made up. They've had people working on them. So inside the organization, you have to do something similar. I repeat, are you known by your boss's peers? And are you known outside by the organization by your competitors? 2 points if you get both right, 1 if got 1, none if the others. Okay? Okay? Assuming there's 2 career paths, one is technical excellence, thought leadership, one is managerial leadership capability. Again, in the last 6 months, what extent have you increased that knowledge? If we're in L&D, and being here today is a big bonus, isn't it? It's around how you are accumulating new knowledge. What are the latest fashions in social learning, mobile learning? Are you appreciating? Again, more than 50% is 2 points. 25 to 51 point. Less than 25%, no points. So what have I got? Has anybody scored 17? Because if you have, you can't add up. Maximum score is 16. How many people have got between 12 and 16? You don't need to tell me, but if you're between 12 and 16, you're doing most of the right things. Congratulations. I can assure you your career's going in the right direction. If you're between 8 and 12, you're spending some time on it, but you're not spending enough time on it. And remember, managing your careers is your responsibility. It's far too important to delegate it to an organisation, and indeed there's no organisation in the UK that can guarantee you job security. They will only employ you if you've got employable skills. Which brings to me, if you've got less than 8, today is your wake-up call. That's why I said this is the most important 30 minutes of 2014, because it's down to you to manage your career. So I've posed the questions. What I should do, of course, then is give you things you can do to manage your career better. This is the model we at 10/8 use in terms of career management. There's 3 things you've got to do. 1, you've got to understand yourself, the why piece. What's important to you? What are your personal values? What are your career values? What are the things that motivate you? The second thing is fairly obviously knowing how. What's your skill set? And by the way, I come from the perspective of if you like something, you can become good at it. By the way, if you don't like something, at best, you'll be average. Worse, I can always find somebody who does like it and be better than you. And thirdly, really, really important in today's society, is knowing whom. I repeat, it's not sufficient for you just to be good at your job. People need to know you're good at the job. People need to know what your aspirations for the future are, and they need to be your ambassadors to sell you. To do that, you have to promote yourself. It won't just happen. And I know it's not fair, but I'm telling you, self-promotion, and I don't mean boastful self, I mean self-promotion in the right way is critical to success. Knowing why, knowing how, knowing whom. Of course, why is it, if you answered 0 or 1 to the career plan question, why is it, because you know it's important really, you're bright people, why is it people don't spend time planning their career? Because I think it's in the too difficult to do box. So I'm going to help you in the sense of these are the things that can structure your thoughts, so at least by answering questions around why, how and whom, you can produce a career plan. And this is a Career Centre. And my offer to everybody in the room today is that you can have free access to this tool and to get feedback over the phone. And of course I'm trying to sell it into organisations because I think it will improve employee engagement. But at this moment I'm focused on you. So if nothing else, taking the time out to do this, I promise you, will help advance your career in 2014. That's the front end. The personal there are 2 types of personal values, by the way. There's personal values, the thing that you hold dear. If I cut you in half and you were a stick of rock, these are the things I would see. If there's not alignment between your values, your boss's values, and the organisational values, there's only one thing going to happen. You are going to be unhappy. You are going to be unsuccessful. So knowing this is really important. These are fixed and they last for your lifetime. It's a thing when you're looking at a job or a boss, you're checking to see whether he or she agrees with you. Career values do change over time, and indeed, you don't have to get them met, all of them, in work. But I do know the top 3 or the top 5 have got to be present for 90% of the time. So on this one, for example, on people content, and it's fairly obvious, isn't it? But if that's important to you and you're working as a sole trader, you're not going to be happy, you're not going to perform. These questions, when you do an appraisal or development session, you're telling your boss, this is what matters to me, boss. Please design the job around these for me. Oh, and by the way, as a boss, if I say, yeah, but actually, no, I want you to work on your own, you're in the wrong place, then the conversation takes that view, we need to do something about that, don't we? So it's a two-way thing. It is about trying to meet your needs, but if need be, maybe there's some of your needs I can't meet and you're being unrealistic about them. Motivators. This is based on the work of John Holland, and this is basically saying these are the things, the accelerators. If I want you to go faster, if I want you to be more committed, more productive, I've got to tap into these. So if you think about your current role, look at, the definition, say if you're an L&D, expertise is high, that's a good thing. Conversely, if business creation is high and you're part of a large corporate, you're not going to be happy. This is all about understanding what drives you. Now, talents for each skills. And you can see it's a matrix. It works on the premise, do you enjoy doing it? And are you good at it? So, in your current role, using this example, what we really want to see is that coaching and problem solving and writing are key elements of your job. Indeed, worse, if we look on the bottom right-hand corner, if they're in your current job, You're not going to be happy, you're not going to perform. Now you can see the power of this conversation between management and the employee. Developmentally, the things that you can improve are advising, deciding, motivating, and implementing, because you like doing them, but you're only competent at them. It comes from that principle of let's take what you do well and do more of it. You can move those things into the left-hand side of the box. By the way, you'll never become good at counselling and mediating because you don't like it. Now, lastly, so 3 reports we've done: values, motivators, and talents. The last one is a career agility, which is effectively saying, let's look at your career plan, where you're trying to get to, what's your state of readiness to get there. And so the top 2 ones around the career stage and the role stage, where do you see you across the whole of your career and in your current job? So you could be at a fairly early stage in your career, but I've been 3 years as a learning and development advisor. It's time to move on. Or likewise, I could just have been appointed as HRD, so I'm at the mastery level, but I'm newly in the job, so I'm still learning it. So that says you where you think you are and why your current job stands in focus to it. The pathway, am I going down an expert or a leadership perspective? Those of you who do management development, we spend a lot of time getting people who are expert to be leaders. Wrong box. Need to know at an earlier stage in your career. How does your career stand in priorities vis-a-vis other things in your life? How mobile are you? What's your level of flexibility? And the interesting thing about this is, when we talk about the accelerator, decelerator, I'll see people who say, Michael, I want to accelerate my career, but actually other things are more important. I've got low flexibility. I can't move. And actually, life's probably more important. And about 6 months ago, I did a big survey of HR people on this. That's completely unrealistic. You need these dials to be in alignment. Hopefully you can see, this is an MOT of you and your state of readiness to progress your career in 2014. So, why do I think this is important? I think it's really important to you, but I think it's not soft and fluffy. I think there's a real return on investment here. I think you can increase employee engagement, and I'm going to show you the impact of that in a moment. I think as a business, we need to understand, I think why UK PLC is bottom of the list is we don't take time to understand what's important to our employees. We impose on them by performance management what we want them to do. I'm flipping it. If I understand what's important to my employees and I deliver around that agenda, I'll have a successful benefit. But the report will tell you what your employees' values are, what they consider their talents to be collectively. It will make sure your talent pipeline is engaged. From an employee perspective, and test the product, it means you've got a plan. You know where you're trying to get to. And because of that, you'll be more productive, more engaged, be more loyal. And you can then sort where are the opportunities in the organization. And lastly, and we're not good at this, are we? Because we don't train managers for it. The one thing employees want, we spend very little time coaching managers for, it makes you sit down with a manager to talk to you, the employee, what you want out of the job, what you want out of the company. And I'm saying you can sculpt it. There's a really good Harvard Business Review called Job Sculpting around how you create the job around employees' needs. And that powerful conversation, remember what I said about engagement. Employees, according to McLeod, say what they want. They want a manager who listens, cares, and stretches. But let me get to the top line. If you're in L&D now, I'm going to make a suggestion how you can increase your impact in the business. Make an appointment and go and see the finance director and say to him, are you interested in putting £1,500 per person on the bottom line of the business? In fact, do the calculation. Think in your head, how many people do we employ? Times it by £1,500. The Work Foundation say if you increase engagement by 10%, and the UK average is 60%, to be a Sunday Times top 100 company, it's more about near to 90%. If you can increase it by 10%, if you increase engagement by 10%, you'll put £1,500 per person on the bottom line of the business. Just don't take my word for it. The evidence by the Engaged Success Group, established by David Cameron about 2 years ago, is the most important HR document published in the last 2 years. Why? Because it gives you hard evidence of the impact of engagement. It's free, it's online, but let me just tell you the Tanith Dodge story recorded to it. Marks and Spencer stores, if you look at upper quartile versus lower quartile for employee engagement, the difference is 1.29%, less than 2%. And I'm thinking most employees at M&S are relatively highly engaged. The difference in sales turnover is 142 million. I come back to, if you can change engagement by 10%, just see what that will mean to the business. I don't believe there's any FD here that you report into is going to turn you down when you have that conversation. And by the way, you see, I'm passionate. This is what we should be doing in the profession. This is how we make a business difference. This is the lever we pay, which is why it's a great time to be in the industry. You employ knowledge workers, and you can engage them. You're going to have a real impact on your business. They'll be saying to you, come on down. Okay. That's the case. 3 key messages. The first one is, what I've been trying to do is make you reflect on you and your career and what you need to do in order to get career success. And I believe everyone can have career success, everyone can have job satisfaction. I'm pleading with you, spend the time to do it. And listen at the front here, my colleagues are there. Sign up for the Career Centre. It's free, we're not going to hassle you, this is about you. The second thing is around your role in the organisation. I believe employees want career conversations. I think their careers are important to them. They don't just turn up to work to tell what to do, they want to do more. And there's so much more they can contribute if we give them. And the third lesson is, there's real ROI here. This is where we demonstrate our worth as HR L&D professionals. This is the lever that you can change. So in 2014, I'm hoping as a result of just listening to me, you and your career will get on the right track and for career success, job satisfaction, but equally, you can cascade that into your businesses and you can demonstrate the power of driving employee engagement. I repeat, access to the system is free. We will give you feedback. Thank you for listening to me.